What's up, my dudes? I'm Viet, host of the BBYK podcast, part of the BSPN radio network, your go-to podcast for sports, humor, and random philosophical musings. Like, how empathetic would we be as humans if we could switch places with other people? Freaky Friday style. The UFC decided it wants its fighters to be a little bit more empathetic, with a crazy week for fight fans culminating in the UFC's very own Freaky Friday. But instead of Little Dicky switching places with Chris Brown, or Lindsay Lohan switching places with Jamie Lee Curtis, it was the UFC trying to get different fighters to switch places with Max Holloway to fight Khabib Nurmagomedov. Max was already a replacement for Tony, who tripped over cables on April Fool's Day. You ever have that one friend that takes pranks too far, like Hunter the Hungry and Popstar, or Ashton Kutcher if you were a B-list celebrity in the early 2000s? That's how I feel about those damn cables. Like, that's a good one, bro, but that was a little too far. This is also a cautionary tale for anyone that wears sunglasses indoors, like danger may impair vision, rob you of your knees, and fight fans of the lightweight battle that we're probably never going to get, according to verified truth teller Dana White. So here we are, a day before the fight. No Tony. No Max. Well, let's get Anthony Pettis, because he doesn't have a fight anymore. Nope, too cheap. Well, let's get Paul Felder. Nope, the New York State Athletic Commission is too dumb. So let's get that one guy that has repeatedly taken a stand against the UFC. Half man, half real estate agent, all legend. We salute you, Regional. And you know what? Those 0.2 pounds or not, you'll be the real people's champ if you're able to pull off what would be the biggest upset in UFC history. And all of this craziness because one Conor McGregor is as loyal as he is crazy. We discuss all of this and more in our UFC 223 breakdown.
No one knows what the fights are because they're still changing.
I actually like this, dude. This is kind of the way I wish it would be normally. Like, hey, you just be ready to fight on this day. Show up. There's a little pool of fighters. You draw ping pong balls. There you go.
Oh, man. Well, my heart almost stopped last night when they were like, oh, yeah, Namajunas is all shaken up. Like, she might not be ready to fight. And I was like, oh, fuck, come on. Both main events?
That should legitimately be the main event anyway.
Oh, yeah. Well, now especially, yeah.
Are they not changing it? They're going to keep it Khabib?
The last thing I saw was the headliner still Khabib versus Al.
Yeah.
But he can't win the belt.
Yeah, Al can't. 0.2 over or something like that is what it said?
Yeah. Which was weird because Pettis, was it Pettis?
Yeah.
Weighed in at 155.2 as well. And then they wouldn't let him re-weigh. And then Iaquinta weighs the exact same, and they give him the fight.
Yeah.
But he can't win a belt.
But to be honest, if Al beats Khabib, we all know he's the champion in all of our hearts. I mean, you know.
That would put them in a really bad spot, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Actually, honestly, I like Al as a fighter in general, but I'm really hoping for that just to throw the whole wrench in the whole shit show and make this even more of a clusterfuck.
I mean, that's what the whole UFC's turning into now.
Oh my gosh, crazy.
I was almost half expecting for the UFC to post bail for Conor so that he can come save the card.
Somebody put his
at 170, sure, whatever.
Somebody put his friggin' arrest sheet up. He weighs 155.
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
Damn.
He's on point.
He was ready to fight.
He's on point. He was on point. And hey, come on, man. Khabib is always like one tiramisu away from being a welterweight anyways.
Yeah.
So it's not like
He's a big boy.
It's not like
they had to set this up yesterday. They could have both fought at 170 probably.
Yeah. All right. We'll just do a rolling start. We're talking about the epic card that is UFC 223. Not quite so epic anymore. A lot has changed. A lot of that was due to one Conor McGregor, who flew over from Ireland to surprise all of us at Barclays, where he subsequently attacked a bus with a bunch of UFC fighters with like his huge. I just love this. He brought this like Irish posse. Could you imagine like how this goes down? Now, you guys can jump in and help me out. I didn't read the entire thing. What I got from Twitter was that Khabib and his boys kind of went after Artem. Now, you can't go after Artem. I forgot who made a joke about it, but they were like, man, if only Conor defended his belts the way he defends Artem. Like, he would have like defended his belt like 5-6 times by now in the UFC. So Khabib and his boys go after Artem. Apparently this warrants Conor McGregor flying over him and like 20-something odd like Irish bros. They get into Barclays using Mac Life credentials, which is like, I guess, like his blog. And so like the guys that work on his blog, they had credentials to be at Barclays to do the media stuff. They let Conor and his posse in. And these guys, I guess, proceeded to wreck house, got in fights with security guards, made it down to the garage, went to the bus, and started throwing shit at the bus. The driver had the foresight, and you gotta props to the bus driver, by the way. Shout outs to the bus driver. Way to be calm, cool, and collected. There were videos from the fighters that were on the bus. They wanted to get out. They wanted to go to war. And the bus driver like refused to open the door, didn't let anybody out. He was just trying to get out of the garage. He was trying to de-escalate the situation, which Conor was like, no.
De-escalation through acceleration.
Not having any of that. Runs after the bus as the bus is trying to go. Runs after it, grabs a dolly, throws it at the bus window. It just happens to be where Michael Chiesa and Ray Borg are sitting. Completely shatters it. I saw the video. Like it was pretty crazy from both perspectives. You have Michael Chiesa, poor guy. He's like I just want to put the stupid Kevin Lee fight behind me, and now I can't even fight. Poor guy. He's like right there, and like the video that showed him, he's like, man, what the hell? His face is cut up. Goes to the hospital. Tweets out that he still wants to fight. Well, they didn't let him fight. He's not cleared. Ray Borg apparently got some glass in his eye. He can't fight. 2 fights off the card. Artem kicked off the card. 3 fights off the card because of one Conor McGregor. And this all comes the week after a very, very harsh April Fool's joke, which turned out to be real. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. Tony Ferguson tripping over cable wire after he did an interview, took out his knee, had to pull out of the fight. So we were, as fight fans, we were already robbed of Khabib Ferguson, and now because
actually,
of
isn't
Conor
this
McGregor,
the best cover for him? Because now everyone kind of forgot about that, right? Like, man, that dude was gonna just be the running punchline for a long time, and now everyone forgot.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like fight fans gave him a pass because that's kind of like, that's more of a falls in the category of shit happens versus like Khabib last time, which it seemed like he was kind of just being foolish and reckless with his diet and not being on point. Ferguson looked like before the injury was healthy, was on point with his weight. Like if it wasn't for that freak accident, that fight would have happened. But of course, we weren't going to get that fight. There needs to be some kind of insurance system. If Khabib and Ferguson never fight, they should already have a plan B. You know,
like
you got to figure there is, right.
So, the 5th time's the charm, right?
So
next time, guys, it's going to happen. I swear.
Yeah, David's been wanting this for a while. I'm sorry, Dave. You're just never gonna. The dream, man. You'll get it when they're like 40 and fighting for Bellator in like the heavyweight in the heavyweight Grand Prix.
Dana can say whatever he wants, and no one ever believes him. But he claims they're never going to book that fight again.
So that brings up a question to me. So, say Khabib wins tomorrow night. I guess he technically has the belt now.
Right. Yeah.
And does anyone really think Conor is going to come back? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. If Conor does not come back, how do you just skip over Tony? Like you have to still schedule that fight again.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like a clear case of, and this happens often. Dana talking before he actually thinks through what it is that he just said.
No.
That never happens.
That's never happened.
So, all right, just to recap, we had Khabib. Ferguson out. So then we get blessed with one Max Holloway, who decides to be a hero, step up a weight class, try to go after what Conor did, be a champ. Well, no, that didn't work out. He didn't make weight. They cited health issues. I think I read that he was 4 pounds over. And this was he could. I mean, like, it's Max. I think the thing was he would have tried his darndest, maybe potentially hospitalizing himself to try to make weight. He really wanted to do it. The commission said no. All right, that's cool. So then who do we get next? We get Pettis. Pettis, who was going to be off the card because he was fighting Mike Chiesa, which was, I think, an important fight for both fighters. I think, Dave, how long has it been, like, with Pettis, like his downhill slide? We've been saying he needs to turn it around. He needs to turn it around. And, man, Mike Chiesa was a good opponent for him to maybe turn it around. Same thing for Mike Chiesa. He really wanted to, just kind of get over that Kevin Lee, early, or was it a tap? Was it not a tap? I think you and I agreed it wasn't quite a tap. They should have let that fight go on a little bit longer with Kevin Lee. I think he wanted to get over it. Poor guy. Conor threw a dolly at him, so he's out. It means Pettis is out. They offered Pettis championship fight, which you would think is kind of like just, I don't know, like lottery ticket just landed in your lap. Here you are sitting at 13th in your division, and all of a sudden you 12. Get a 12, and you get a shot at the champ or for the belt. I mean, I would have taken it, but I don't blame him for standing up for himself. And I wish more fighters would do this. I'm not just saying this for fighters in general. I say this just to kind of go off on a tangent. I think, especially here in the U.S., we have this weird thing about discussing salaries openly. I think employees need to be a little bit more open about how they negotiate and always negotiate your salary. And I think that definitely applies to these fighters. The UFC is not going to hand you anything, but they can pick you off one by one. And so it really takes a collective effort. Pettis wanted to get paid what a champion would get paid to fight. He wanted championship level money. They wanted to pay him, I think, what he was going to make for his Mike Chiesa fight. He said, no, this is a dangerous fight. Khabib, he can beat the crap out of people. If we were breaking down that fight and this was Pettis, it would have been a blowout, guys. Khabib would have taken him down. He would have been getting paid $500,000 or whatever to get the crap beat out of him. And credit to Pettis, he's not exactly one to he's willing to step up for challenges. He was willing to step up for his principles here. He wanted to get paid. They said no. He stepped out. Paul Felder, the next guy. All right, this is our guy. We're going to get Felder versus Khabib. Well, and David, you got to correct me because this has got to be wrong. But according to what I've heard, the New York State Athletic Commission thought that the top 15 ranking was a hard cutoff for people that were eligible to fight. David, is this right? Did they actually think this?
So that's also what I heard, and this would not. I would not put this above the New York State Athletic Commission to think this. They have a long, not a long history.
No, short. That's the problem, right?
A very short, but
and
very colorful and controversial and full history of fucking shit up. And we can just add this one to the list, honestly.
So I mean, So Tyler, I don't even know you even heard, but for sure, this is what they came up with. They thought top 15 was a hard requirement to fight for the belt. So they disqualified Paul Felder from being able to fight for the belt because he wasn't top 15.
I guess that's why I saw Helwani talking about how the UFC fought the whole ranking system for so long, and it was eventually just because of TV deals that they even caved in and did it, is for reasons like this. They don't really believe the ranking system means squat anyway. They only do it because it's built into the Fox contract. Because numbers sell people who don't know what the hell they're watching, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's the number 3 guy. He must be good.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm fine with it, though.
Even if number 12 guy can beat him.
Yeah.
We've always had an unofficial ranking system. Like if the UFC didn't do one, like Sherdog's been doing one for a while. Like, and I feel like fight fans, we kind of have an unofficial fighter ranking. I'm okay with it. I'm not gonna let the New York State Athletic Commission get off the hook because like we have like this ranking. That's not confusing, Tyler. It's just a ranking system. I mean that shouldn't be that confusing. But to these guys, that's just complete incompetence on these guys' part. He's out. So Raging Al steps in, the man who is half fighter, half real estate agent. He decides
the toughest, scariest real estate agent in the world.
He decides to step in, and now he will be facing Khabib Nurmagomedov. Whew. What a crazy week. Am I missing something, David? Has something else gone down since we've started this podcast?
I sure hope not. I have not been on Twitter since we started the podcast.
Maybe we should we should have Twitter feed like going live right now just to make sure we're not missing anything because.
Wait! Breaking news! Khabib just ate tiramisu, and he weighed in at 170. So no belt.
No belt. Oh man, how crazy is all of this? You can't make it up. You cannot make it up. So let's get into Conor real quick. So Nate tweeted out, and Nate was kind of backing Conor up. He was like, "Hey, you gotta back up your boy." So I'm kind of how are we supposed to feel like this? It seems like people are going down pretty hard on Conor. I feel like rightfully so. How are you feeling about this?
I agree with you, Viet. Yesterday, when I was first seeing the news and scrolling through all the Twitter feed and all the stories and everything like that, my first thought was honestly, what the hell, Conor? What are you doing? You're kind of already on thin ice in a way just because you haven't fought in forever. He had the whole Bellator jumping the cage incident. Way back, he had the throwing the monster can incident, which, back then you're like, okay, whatever. But this just like completely escalates everything. And it wasn't just a immature act with no real repercussions, the monster throwing thing, no real repercussions for that one. This one completely, in a way, demolished what was arguably the biggest UFC card of the year so far. He went to go back up his boy Artem. Well, now Artem's not fighting. He basically cut up Michael Chiesa and Ray Borg. So that took two other fights off the card. I mean, he basically single-handedly just kind of destroyed, a strong word, but he basically single-handedly very much lessened the value of this UFC pay-per-view, which was so far, like I said, the biggest card of the year. And I mean, short term, really, really stupid, immature move. But then long term, I mean, if he does come back and fight in the UFC, man, all of a sudden Conor versus Khabib, like that was already a big deal. And holy shit, now it's even a bigger deal. Like this is, I mean, I don't know about Floyd Conor level, but this is getting up there. Like if Conor fights Khabib in the future, this could arguably be the biggest pay-per-view buy in the history of the UFC. Actually, it probably will be if he comes back.
Yeah,
but that does not take away the fact that this was a very immature, selfish move on his part.
You got anything to add to that, Tyler, talking about Conor, his recent actions, and what do you see for his future?
So I've seen a lot of people bringing up the point, and I'm curious how it will go. This could affect Conor's ability to get visas coming from Ireland into the U.S. going forward, right? So, I mean, if we're being honest about this stuff, these guys live in a different world than blue-collar boys. So this may all get pleaded down, and it might go away, and it may not affect his visas. Or regardless of how it comes, it may either be really difficult for him to get a visa going forward in the States, or it may be impossible, right? So I don't know what all limits they put on the athletic visas, but I know all the fighters, they fight under that, was it A1 visa? It's the same one the guy's got to get between like US and Canada for all the pro leagues. So that could be interesting going forward, because Conor may have just kept himself from being able to fight in the biggest MMA market in the world. So that going forward may throw a big wrench in the plans. That's that. I think David kind of nailed it. Like, the UFC can totally turn this into a good thing for them if they're able to put on a Conor Khabib fight. And then everyone will be like, it's fine. Look at all the promo this fight gets. It's got natural heat, as the wrestlers would say, right? Like, I hate that this thing, which really should be a moment where the fighters have to realize, like, it's all well and good. You might make a bunch of money. You might be, something of a star, but you're not above the law. Like, you have a place to legally fight people on contract times and terms. And if you go outside of that, there are real repercussions, right? I just think at the end of the day, it's not going to matter as much as it should.
I feel like, though, we also have like a culture that incentivizes this sort of behavior. I mean, just look at the way celebrities and stuff act in America. We kind of give them leeway to be crazy. We want to be entertained by their crazy, and then we reward them by not giving them the same legal treatment. And then by paying for whatever TV shows or book deals that they want afterwards. We love crazy. We're entertained by it, and so we reward people that have bad behavior. And you want to go a step further. You want to go like Popovich and a bottle of Chianti, like controversy style. But like, if you really can't like come back to the U.S. to fight, maybe you did this, and it's just like, all right, cool. I guess if you want to make that Conor money, you're finally gonna have to give me that big UFC card in Ireland. I get to fight on my own home turf. Bring Khabib over there. Also, I know Khabib's been wanting to fight at home too, so it could be that big fight card. It might not have to be in Vegas, is what I'm saying. Like, it could be he has issues there, and they could still make that fight happen. And look, that was a big fight even before all of this, and they would have had no problem selling it anyways. It's a little bit. It's just a little bit crazy, like a little bit, like just a little bit over the top. Like, you almost wonder if like there were substances involved or something like that. Like, it's just a little bit too much, man. It's a little bit too much. Yeah,
cocaine's a hell of a drug.
It's like, I don't know. There was always a little bit of method to the madness with Conor, and then like now it's like this is just unhinged, like deranged.
Still in the testing pool though, right?
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
So I mean, in theory, that should be ruled out. But to your point, I guess it doesn't matter. But
John Jones. Coke really stays in your
Jones
system
popped,
all too long.
Remember?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was like a metabolite, but like I think he's kind of like fessed up to it. Like, I went down to Brazil, had a good time.
Who hasn't? I mean,
I don't know, man.
Most everyone doesn't go to Brazil, though, right? They just jump the border in Texas or New Mexico or something.
I think this is a case of a guy, like, this is like what happens when you give new money, like all of it at once. Like, this is a guy that didn't grow up with any of that. I think if he would have fought in the UFC, worked his way up, and eventually gotten his wealth, you would still see a brash and confident and sometimes monster throwing Conor McGregor, but you wouldn't see a Dolly bus smashing Conor McGregor. This is what happens when you give a guy $180 million or whatever he got off of that Mayweather, and all the promotions that he got afterwards, and all the new companies he's been able to open up with. You start feeling when you make that kind of money, you have those kinds of rewards in your life. It's just, you're right, Tyler. It's the rules don't apply to me anymore. How can they? I do whatever I want. And it always works out for me. And not only does it work out for me, my employer has protected me all along the way. No matter how I behaved, no matter what I did, if I wanted to show up to something, if I didn't want to show up to something, he showed up late to a bunch of press conferences. Like, I'm on Conor time. I mean, like, look, you just can't do that. But like, think about it, David. You go to your job, right? Your boss can come in at noon and then like leave like after an hour. No one's going to say shit to that person. But, like, we can't show up, like, 2 hours late, like, just roll in without an explanation. That's just not how it works.
You can't do that?
I mean, like, I can't, but like, I have a different work. I'm trying to look. Okay, so everyone has like a different.
Yeah, I'm salaried now, and things are kind of different for me too. So I kind of just do my own thing.
I think it's a bit akin to maybe you kind of like grind at a job, and not saying like he didn't necessarily like his job. I think the UFC can be hard work. You deprive yourself of a lot of things. You train really hard, and then you get like punched in the face for a living, and it's a bit of a grind. And then you kind of get your reward. I mean, like you're kind of like doing your job. It's like Office Space, and all of a sudden you make $180 million. You might just go in, start gutting fish, like kick your desk, your cubicle thing over, so you have like a view of the window. Just stop giving a shit in general.
What would you do with $1 million?
Two chicks at the same time.
So I think it's a bit of that. He kind of got handed all at once, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good for him, and I think maybe it robbed us of a few years of prime Conor McGregor fights as fight fans. I think he's a hell of a fighter, and I think if we didn't do that Mayweather sideshow, we would have had quite a few more really good high-level UFC fights in them. At this point, I think maybe Khabib, because the money might be there for him. And that's if they can even work out all this other legal stuff, right? So really up in the air. And
also whether or not the athletic commission. So I don't know what they could do with his fight license. I mean, he wasn't registered to fight in New York, McGregor, but like, could they impose an injunction on him that other athletic commissions would uphold? Like we've seen that recently before with a
fight commission,
John Jones in California, right?
Yeah,
like California pulled his license,
right?
But like they can, because everything's regulated by the state,
right?
Another commission could decide, we don't care, we'll issue him a license anyway. And
right.
there's no binding to that, right? Yeah. So if New York says, hey, we're not going to let McGregor fight here for 5 years, does any other commission look at that and go, well, maybe we wouldn't license him, or maybe we still will, right? And that's beyond the visa stuff, but could that be a consideration in the future?
I would really hope that all the other 49 states do not take their lead from the New York State Athletic Commission.
Right. Well, granted.
Because, as we previously discussed.
And the thing is, they generally never do. I mean,
right.
It was like, I think Luke Tom was talking about it. They don't get paid, to put on shows, to oversee promotional fights within the state, but it's beneficial. It's synergistic, if you will. There's little incentive for them to kind of put down any kind of regulation, especially on like a high profile fight like Conor that can bring so much money and stuff into their state anyway. So it's like kind of like California. They do that to John Jones. That was like a USADA situation. So there were things that the UFC had to do. So it was organizational along with the commission. But I think if it's just something like that with New York, I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. I just think it's a really bad look. It's just a really bad look for McGregor, and it's indefensible. I get that he's trying to be a loyal friend, but man, it just really immature. Just really immature, dude. Like you let a lot of people down, and you ruined a really good card, and it's a shame. It's a shame, really.
If you're a big shot in the new UFC, and I forget, is it WME? Who owns them now? Like the majority WME.
Yeah.
So let's say that you're in some position there, and you can actually make the call to say, like, all right, we want to keep this guy around fighting for our organization,
right?
Or we need to cut ties for now and let this guy figure his life out, whatever. We say we got a 3-year moratorium on bringing you back. Just an example. What would you do if you're the man who gets to make that final call? Where do you go on that right now? Knowing that nothing legally has been sorted out. It's been done is he bail posted, right?
Right.
So you have the video. You've seen what happened. You've got Dana White as your mouthpiece out there saying the stuff he's saying, right? You just lost 3 fights on what you were hoping to be a gigantic card. You've tumbled a championship into nowhere, right? What do you do?
Yeah, I think if it were me, it's hard to tell what an athlete would do, especially one that is just, like I said, new money and just got into just a crazy amount of wealth and is living his life up, as we've seen from like a bunch of videos that came post Mayweather McGregor like spectacle. I think I would want to sit down with him, maybe sit down with some of his business managers, and just really kind of map out what it is he wants to accomplish with the sport still. And I think you would just kind of stress to him like this is your legacy on the line, and you did pretty well. It feels like your story's a little bit unfinished, and you lost 2 out of your last 4 fights, I guess. So you've been like 500. Is that how you want to go out? I think you want to speak to the guy. You want to speak to his pride and ego, and see if he cares about his legacy. See if he cares about that, and then you hope that you get an honest answer, and then you could go from there. Because man, I'm telling you, if I were making those decisions, it's the same reason why he's been getting away with it so much. That there's just nobody else on the roster that can pull like Conor McGregor. It would be really hard. If I were in charge of the UFC, I was able to make that decision. It'd be really hard to just say no. Like, look, man, you effed up. You let us down. No more. It's just you're trying to run a business. Presumably, if I were in that position, I just made a $4 billion investment, so I want some return on it. And then plus, it's like these a lot of these investors. I mean, it's like the Serena Williams sisters, Wahlbergs, Brady's. These guys are like celebrities themselves. And obviously, there's other people that are partners, but I think there's enough people there that can kind of relate to just how crazy one might get like under the scrutiny of the spotlight, and they might be a little bit more empathetic to the crazy that Conor is displaying. I think like to us normal people are kind of like, hey man, like we all work, we all grind, you work, you grind, you got yours, like stop trying to F it up for other people along the way. So we'll see. Conor strikes me as a guy that like on his like decent days is a person that like tries to be a good person. I mean, we've seen examples of that. I just think a lot of this stuff has gotten to his head, and he doesn't have anyone that could really discipline him. And the UFC really dropped the ball on that a long time ago. It was something that they could have implemented. They could have put something in order. I think as soon as they said he could get out of the contract for that Mayweather fight, they basically said, all right, you can basically do whatever the F you want. We have no control. And in many ways, it's not surprising that if his friend gets cornered and has a stern talking to by Khabib's guys, he has to fly over with a group of dudes and attack a UFC bus. It just seems like you open the doorway for that. So let's get to this much less stacked card, finally. Let's point out a couple highlights from the FS1 prelims. The first fight, always a shout out to Mr. Devin Clark, Brown Bear. Big fans of him here on the show. He's going against Slow Mike Rodriguez. David, who do you think is going to make it out of this one?
I do know that we're big fans of Devin Clark here at Broest Bros, but I do think that this is a tough matchup for Devin. Mike Rodriguez has some nasty finishing skills, and he's got some pretty good takedown defense. I have a hard time seeing Devin be able to drag this to the mat. And if it stays standing, I think Mike can finish him, honestly, standing on the feet. He trains with Joe Lauzon, so he's got some slick submissions too. I just think it's a tough matchup for Devin, unfortunately for him.
Yeah. I mean, you hit it right on the head. He's gonna have to do his best to try to drag this to the ground, grind on him. But I'm rooting for him. I think he has a decent shot, but he's gonna have to close that distance really quickly and turn this into a grappling match. We got Evan Dunham against our boy Albin Mercier. He's Canadian, Tyler.
Yay! But he's from Quebec, so So
not really.
So not really.
Well, he is, but you gotta.
Dude, he was like a.
We only give one guy from Quebec a true pass. Come on.
This is our favorite guy on that Team Canada versus Team Australia. It's just like this nerdy looking dude, but he was like an awesome fighter.
And until he takes his shirt off, and then you're like, oh shit.
He also volunteered to be the gangster for Canada in all this mess. He said, well, if Conor's going to be the Irish guy and John Jones going to be the American guy, I'll be the Canadian guy. There's that.
Yeah.
But he said it in like his like super sweet, like, French Canadian accent.
Well, it was on Twitter, so it was like broken English and stuff. And then you're like, oh man, you really are from Quebec, aren't you? Come on, buddy.
We got a pair of female fights. We got Bec Rawlings versus Ashley Evans Smith. The question to you guys is: Bec Rawlings probably, after Magana, like the most hated female fighter on the roster? I just don't know anyone that's like a fan of Bec Rawlings. First of all,
Magana's a fan.
Yeah, Magana's a fan. Her name bothers me. Bec Rawlings, you got the B, you got the Rawlings. Like, why isn't it Brawlin for Rawlins? You go with Rowdy. Just straight copied Ronda. Your nickname sucks.
My only comment on this fight was, okay, so we lost 3 fights with this card, and why was this not one of them?
The shade of it all.
Ouch.
That wasn't that ouch. I mean, like, it was okay ouch.
That's
it was
pretty ouch.
It was like average ouch at best.
Come on.
Average ouch at best. The next fight, I don't know why this wasn't elevated to the main card. Like, this is a pretty relevant fight. We got Kavokavich versus Felice Herrig.
Well, at this point, let's not say that it won't be.
Yeah. Wait, are you on Twitter? Have more fights been canceled?
Everything changed again.
It's going to end up like it's just going to be UFC 223 sparring match between Iaquinta versus Dana White.
Actually, I would honestly pay $70 to watch that.
So you got Kavokavich. I really like what Herrick has been doing lately. She's come on strong, and she has a great all-around game. I don't really know. Are you guys seeing it going any way except for Carolina?
No, I mean, honestly, like I agree with you. Like, Felice has had a nice run, but she's kind of done it through just like toughing out through things, and like, I mean, she's been the underdog in her last few fights and coming out on top. But Carolina is just a different level and a huge step up from her previous competition, and I just don't see Felice having any answer to Carolina's offense. It's just I just do not see her winning this thing. I think Carolina outpoints her and wins handily.
Yeah, it looks like the classic one fighter on the way up, one fighter on the way down, and you just kind of hope it's exciting.
Oh, I think it will be. I think both these women are they're hard to finish, and they're go-getters. I just think there's nothing. Herrick can't really do too much. Like, we've seen Carolina get picked apart by Joanna, like get the crap beat out of her, and still come back and steal a round in the 4th randomly. Like, this is just like one of the toughest chicks on the roster. I just don't think Herrick has the speed. Honestly, I don't even like her thing is endurance, and that really won't be that much of a factor here. I think Kavokavich can hang with her. So I just don't really see any advantages for Herrig, and I think Carolina will pick her apart. Her Muay Thai is really good, and as we saw when she fought Rose, which kind of put Carolina in that title, gave her that title shot when she beat Rose. She showed a really good ability to get into that Thai range, mix it up with the clinch, and get in short shots. She beat Rose up in an area that we've seen Rose do really well at. So Carolina's stand-up game is really good, and she's I don't know if she has much of a ground game, but she has shown a good ability to get out of it, pop back up. So I see this one for Carolina. But I do think that it has the potential to be one of the more exciting fights on the card. And as Tyler pointed out, with as many fights that keep dropping, that may not be saying much. The first fight of the main card, we got Joe Lauzon versus one of David's favorite fighters, Chris Grutzmacher.
Why do you do this to me?
So I'll let you talk about Grits real quick, man. What do you like about this guy?
So the thing I like about Grits the most is the fact that he is very much the lowest level of competition that Joe Lauzon's fought in a long time. So Lauzon's about to sub him in the first round.
Okay, let me tell you what I like about Grits. How easy it is to get under his skin. I remember watching The Ultimate Fighter. It looked like he wanted to pick a fight with everyone. It's like you could say anything. You'd be like, "Hey, what's up, Chris? What did you call me, dude? Show man." You're a middling fighter at best. He's kind of. What niche has he carved out for himself? He's not even much of a gatekeeper, but
and he's not even one of those like tough guys that's hard to finish. I mean, I feel like he gets subbed every single time he steps into the octagon. So this has a Joe Lauzon sub written all over it.
And this is when Tyler comes in and shows us all up, and he was like, Chris by a first round knockout, and Chris goes out there and knocks out Joe Lauzon in the first round.
I didn't know Joe Lauzon was still alive, much less fighting. Good God.
Yeah, he's survived many wars. This guy.
That boy's been around a while.
I will say this: if Lauzon loses this, it's time to retire, bro.
Yeah,
man, this 27-15. How tough do you have to be to lose 15 times?
I'm not. It'd still be signed in the UFC,
right?
I mean, I'm not taking anything away. Like Lauzon can probably still go. I hope, but like, man, buddy. He was around when Forrest was around, like it's time.
It's time. Yeah, he keeps ticking though. He keeps ticking. All right. This next fight, and I'm not even going to stand in David's way because I know he's like I said, David listens to a lot of NPR, so his pronunciation of foreign names is on point. I'm gonna let you give me this next fight real quick. Go ahead, hit me up.
All right, we have Zabit Magomedov versus Kyle Bochniak.
Dude, did you hear my boy's enunciation? Did you hear that? What was it again? Zabit what?
Magomedov.
Oh, dang, that sounded nice. Lot to like about this kid. Obviously, Kyle Bochniak. Fans of him here looked really good in his last fight, but I think Zabit is he's the guy. He's like the up and comer. He's the guy that everyone's excited for, and we've talked about this before. As much as we like Bochniak, and even though he's pretty new to the UFC, he's kind of already like been pushed to that gatekeeper status. He's the guy that the up-and-coming guys like Zabit go in and they have to prove themselves. Now, I'm not saying gatekeeper in a pejorative way, the way I was saying it about Grutzmacher. Bochniak is a tough guy. He's kind of like the proving ground. I think, Tyler, you were saying that, I forgot what name you brought up, but it was this legendary sparring guy. He was just beat the crap out of people in some camp, right? And it was like, you go into this camp, if you can hang with this guy, you call him a gatekeeper, but it wasn't an insult. It was like, no, if you can take this guy, you had what it takes. That's what I'm saying about Bochniak here. But we'll let you, the fight expert, David. I'll let you have first take on this one. How do you see this fight going?
Oh, sorry, to me?
Yeah.
Sorry, you cut out.
It's not there. To me. He called fight expert.
Well, obviously that's me. Yes. Like you said, this is a tough test for Bochniak. And I do like how you described him as kind of a gatekeeper in a sense of, you have these blue chip prospects come in, and if they can hang with Bochniak, then they can, then there's something to them. Zabit, this dude can hang though. He has some of the slickest, ground game, arguably in the UFC. It's just fun to watch. Man, it's tough for Bochniak. He's quick, he's strong, he's tough, but I have a hard time seeing him last very long at all with Zabit. He's going to get choked out at some point in this fight, and it's going to be fun to watch just from a sporting kind of angle. But yeah, Zabit's going places. Let's put it that way.
He is, and I think he's a fan favorite for sure, right? Like very creative. He's a grappler by trade right now. His striking is no joke, and he's one of those guys that loves to mix up like some crazy stuff. He's a very exciting, flashy fighter, and one of those flashy fighters that he will throw in the style, not so much for. Not even to really throw up his opponents or something like that. I think that's the thing that he will shore up as he, as he starts stepping up in competition. You can't always mess around with like guys in the UFC. Those guys will F you up if you just keep trying to mess around, throw fancy stuff. But ridiculous 7.5 takedowns. I mean, a fight. It's just this guy puts people on their back. He's creative with his striking. Kyle did say something interesting, and then it's like with these guys that they like to be creative or unorthodox, kind of throw you off your rhythm by throwing crazy shots. By doing so, it can't throw you out of your rhythm, but it also, because of the weird angles they come in at, they also create random pockets of opportunity. So if you're an orthodox traditional fighter and you just have a really strong, slick counter game, you may have some opportunities against a guy that was just kind of go in there and just fight unorthodox and may not switch back to something that might be more akin to a traditional boxing or Muay Thai or something like that, kind of more of a wild man approach, like anything goes. And Kyle Bochniak, he almost the exact opposite, right? Like not flashy at all. Like this guy is your meat and potatoes, 1-2, get into your chest, try to put you on your back, grind you against the fence, get in close and wear on you. I think for the good of the sport, and I also think just realistically Zabit has this, but I wouldn't be surprised if Bochniak was able to pull off a surprise here. Just not you kind of fight a traditional way. There's a reason why coaches kind of train you to fight like that. It creates less opportunity for someone to capitalize. So I'm rooting obviously for Bochniak, but man, Zabit he's a fun fighter and he's going places. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of Zabit. And David, give me the last name one last time.
Sorry, I was on mute. Magomed Sharapov.
All right. Okay. This next fight, I'm actually really excited about this. I think this is going to be a really, really good fight. We got Renato. Is it Moicano? Moicano versus Qatar. Tyler, you want to take first crack at this one?
Nope.
Nope. All right. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say, I think this fight has, especially now, has a fight of the night written all over it.
Yes, definitely.
This is a great just matchmaking win for the UFC. Calvin Kattar has some very, very slick striking. Like he hits his shots, he hits his points. His counters are legit. His timing's legit. And then Moicano's hung with some tough mofos in that division. And he has some slick BJJ, but his last couple fights have mainly been standing. And he's showing off his own striking skills. This one is honestly, to me, I think a 50-50 toss-up. And it's going back and forth and just fun as hell to watch all night.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this has fight of the night potential. Moicano, his last fight was against a guy that's seemingly unbeatable right now. In what's his face? Brian
Ortega.
Yeah, Ortega. So I don't know how much you could take from that. I mean, he's had wins over guys like Jeremy Stevens, so he obviously can hang with the best in this division. I see him as a lot more well-rounded, and not just in terms of the fact that like he has some striking, and obviously he's got the jiu-jitsu black belt. His wrestling is decent, but I actually think his striking might be more well-rounded than Calvin's. Even though Calvin, will have the striking edge here in this fight. You see him. He likes to work behind his jabs, and you see him throw a lot of heavy leg kicks, work the body. There's a lot to like there. There's a diversity of strikes, and there's also the confidence that if the other guy makes a mistake or he gets in close, he can take him to the ground, and that's going to be his world. So if you're going from Calvin's perspective, boxing is kind of the name of the game, right? Like everyone he's beaten, it's because he's been able to turn into a striking game and really outbox him. He's got some slick hands. Will mix in some kicks, but he really feels comfortable with his boxing. And his wrestling, it's more of that defensive wrestling. It's just more of not staying on the ground, getting out of situations. He doesn't really like to engage in grappling exchanges or at least stay there. But he's certainly, at least in terms of standing grappling, in the clinch, he can hold his own. But would really like to stay in that boxing distance. Would really love to use his footwork, keep Renato at bay, and really use his boxing. And he can outpoint you. He also has the power to take you out. I think because of these clashing styles, and I think Moicano, if he has some success on the feet, he will maybe like oblige Calvin and stay there, and then we could see some fireworks. I think that would be really fun. I think maybe I see Renato later on in the fight going, okay, maybe I'm a step slower on my feet, start trying to take it to the ground. Then we'll really see, because it's really when you have that style clash that things can really become a blowout. He comes in and Calvin catches him, or he's able to take him to the ground and maybe even submit Calvin. So how are you calling this fight? I'm sorry if you already said it, but
so I picked Moicano in DraftKings because he's honestly one of the cheapest fighters in the DraftKings lineup for this weekend. But as far as like picking it, I'm leaning Cater just because of his timing and his finishing power. But that's not a very confident pick.
Yeah, pretty much a toss-up. Tyler, you got a pick?
UFC's own stats are kind of dubious, but they list Cater as having 100% takedown defense over 20 fights. Mm-hmm. And he's got knockouts where Moicano doesn't have any pro-level knockouts. I'm a numbers guy. I'm going to go with Cater on this one.
I got my fight expert and I got my statistician. That's how we get things done, boys. All right. The next fight, which should be the real, we'll call it the real main event. The real main event is a rematch between Doug Rose Namajunas against the former champion Joanna Jedrzejczyk. Tyler, do you want to take first crack at this one?
Sure, why not? What's funny? Rose said she didn't want this fight, remember? For like a couple of weeks after she said she wasn't going to do this fight. Then, I'm guessing money probably made her take it. So, I'm not the best at breaking down long term. You guys are good for that. You got to go Rose in this one, I think. She's got a little bit of momentum in her favor. She knows that what she did prepping for the last fight worked. That Joanna went back, changed up her camp a little bit, fired her nutritionist. She's trying new things. And usually, and I don't have the numbers to back this up, but if you look at UFC champs who lose and then revamp their camp, they never come back as strong that very first fight back because they're too busy trying to change things. And when you take a professional athlete out of rhythm, it never goes well for them, right? It takes them a while. They got to get a new rhythm. So I think with Joanna having been as dominant as she was for so long and everything working in her favor for so long, now that she's retooling, this is probably not the best fight for her to take coming back off of that. So I think you stick with the champ in this one.
David.
This one's tough. I feel like a lot of it comes down to where Joanna's head is at right now. She was, completely dominant, and then when Rose knocked her out, that was a shock to not just all of us, but obviously to Joanna as well. And I think a big question is, does she have the Ronda Rousey kind of reaction to it? Or does she, make necessary adjustments, realize what she did wrong last time, not blame it on the cut and on her nutritionist, and actually make changes to her actual game plan? If she does that, I think she can beat Rose. If not, then I think it's this, basically a repeat of last time. It's tough though, because it's one of those things that it's hard to know at this point.
I mean, do you having watched that fight, what adjustments do you think she should make? I think it's really hard because there's really little to take from that. Like, what adjustments are you going to make?
So I think last time Joanna was not expecting someone to be able to. So usually Joanna was able to keep someone at the end of her jab, not necessarily her jab, but at the end of her strikes. And the way Rose was able to kind of get in and then get out, I think was not something that Joanna really expected or was really used to. And maybe this time around, if she realizes that Rose can do that, maybe she can make those changes and just be prepared for that. But yeah, as far as any concrete changes, I don't really know. I think it's more just being prepared for what she knows what she should know that Rose can do now. I think last time it was just kind of like a big shock to her and not something that she was expecting and did not know how to adjust mid-fight. If she adjusted, over the past, few months, then I think she has a shot.
So recently read Sun Tzu's Art of War. And, one of the things, it's really, really dry reading. But I listened to the audiobook, and it has some commentary, which is kind of cool. Maybe I would recommend it to our listeners if you're into that.
So
that
really
kind of
dry
thing.
Listening then, huh?
Not like this podcast.
Not like this podcast, which is super, super cool and interesting. But one of the things that he brings up is using your opponent's knowledge of you against them. And I think Joanna going into it was kind of like, all right, let's look at Rose. What does she do? Lots of jabs, kind of like works her way in, tries to get into that clinch race. Okay, cool. Let's bring it out. Let's bring out that jab. Let's see what happens. And she saw it. She saw the feint, which she anticipated as a jab, never followed up. You're right, David. She was confused with the timing. My trouble with this is it's whenever you make a mistake, like you do something, like you fight someone, like the Machida John Jones fight. John Jones would go in and Machida would immediately chop down his legs as soon as he came into striking distance, and it threw off his counter each time. Machida was able to go in 1-2 and then back up for two straight rounds. He was able to stop John Jones's attack. John Jones was not able to land anything just by doing that. Very simple. John Jones would come in, kick the leg, throw off John Jones's timing, and then boom, 1-2, back up. He goes over to the corner, and his coaches were like, "Watch out for that kick, right? Check it." So then John Jones goes in immediately, checks it, and then goes and throws off his offense. Machida was cooked after that. He made the adjustment. That's something that you can kind of see what's going wrong. You make an adjustment. But I think my problem here is that whenever Namajunas used Jedrzejczyk's knowledge of her game against her, she got some read on Joanna. It's really hard to change up the way you fight naturally, because that kind of makes you good, right? So Joanna probably has a flow to the way she likes to set up strikes. That's really hard. In the back of your head, you're like, all right, I'm doing something right before I throw a kick or right before I throw a punch that my opponent is seeing and is knowing that it's coming and it's making it easy for them to counter. That can eat at you. Because, what do you do? So I said, all right, maybe I'll throw it a little bit differently, but that might mess up your timing, which is why I'm with you in that I think it's really hard. I don't think there's like a concrete thing that Joanna could have gone. It's like, all right, I did this wrong and I need to fix this. I think it was more that Rose got the beat on her. She read something out of it, and let's go over to baseball. It was like with the Astros and Yu Darvish in the World Series. They saw something, right? They said that he had like some tell or something when he was throwing pitches, and they were able to get a read on it, and they found a lot of success against him. And even though he knew that, because he had just had a game where the Astros blew him up. He came out game 7, they blew him up again. It's really hard to adjust that because you're doing what makes, as an athlete, you're doing what comes naturally to you and what makes you good. And it's really hard when someone is getting a read on what you're doing naturally. So like then you're almost forced to maybe do things unnaturally, which, a fighter as talented as Joanna, she could do that and she could find success. I'm definitely not putting it against the former champion. She is as advertised. She is that good. And as much as we're making of Rose's striking game now, because it looks so great when she took down Joanna last time, let's not joke ourselves. Joanna,
recency bias,
right, best striker in that division,
right,
by quite a bit, like and over a prolonged period of time against the best. This is a dominant striker, a 5-time world Muay Thai champion. Joanna's great. If anyone can make an adjustment like that, it would be her. But I think trying to break down a fight, it's tough, man. It's tough when it's just someone got a read on you. Like that's really tough to make an adjustment. It's like if you're a wrestler and someone gets a read on you and knows exactly when you want to time your takedowns and you can't land your takedowns anymore. What do? Do you try to set up differently? Then do you, by trying to set it up differently, do you leave yourself vulnerable to other counters and stuff like that? And I think that might actually go into Rose's favor if she kind of goes along with this philosophy of using that knowledge against Joanna. Could she then anticipate weird changes like that and capitalize on them? So I think the mental game in this fight is going to be just as fascinating to watch. It's who can impose their game plan, who can get the jump on the other person, and can Rose, who she's expressionless, and I think that really works in her favor. You can't get a read off of her. Even when she loses, she kind of looks like when she wins, it's kind of like when she loses, it's kind of like and then she wins, and then she's smiles, and you're like, oh, you're adorable. Why do you look like a serial killer most of the time? So I think this is a tough fight for Joanna, and I didn't quite pick against her last time. I just thought that I really did think Rose had a good shot at beating her. And now that she's shown that she can do it, I think I'm going to go with Rose again. But it's more of a pick'ems, like a draft king or whatever. Like when David does the betting odds, I think that's kind of more of how I'm picking that, because I'm assuming Joanna still, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but she's still the favorite in this fight, right?
She is. I mean, I don't like the actual Vegas odds, but on the DraftKings site, she's still a more expensive fighter, and I'm actually rolling with Rose and DraftKings because the price is just too good to pass up.
Yeah, I'm
the odds might be pretty thrown into disarray right now because of everything, though.
That is very true.
I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see Rose fight from the champion's corner, because all the champions who can make this thing last, they figure out how to use champion's advantage, right? This is her first fight as champion, so that should be kind of interesting.
And she was on the bus that had the broken window, and she was talking about being shaken up and stuff. I mean,
that's not a good sign. There's
just a lot going on. There's a lot going on with this.
Yeah, it's definitely not. It really was an unfortunate incident, because you have it's a weird sport in that a lot of these fighters, it's not like other sports. You don't get to fight 100% as a fighter. You don't get to go in there at the weight you feel comfortable at, and having eaten whatever you wanted to feel good, and having worked out any way you wanted to, so that you don't have a lot of muscle soreness or whatever. You can take care of your body a little bit better in other sports. As a fighter, it comes with the territory, and that close to fight day, all of your prep time is valuable. So just being stuck in a stressful situation on a bus while all that stuff's cleared up, while you're having to deal with media obligations, you're just wanting to go back to your hotel room so you can either maybe lose the next few pounds, maybe getting like a quick bite to eat, get some rest. You get that thrown off. That's tough. I'm hoping it doesn't play a factor in the fight. But
old odds were showing pretty close. Jedrzejczyk was the favorite, but I mean, these were from a few days ago, so.
And I guess another thing I'll throw in there, just like kind of just another remark on how amazing Namajunas has been and how much she's improved. But you remember when she kind of came into the sport, she was supposed to be the next Ronda. Like, she was known for her jiu-jitsu and ground game. And, her striking has improved, to the point where she beat the best striker in division last fight by strikes. So she has really improved each and every time. I would imagine that she's only continued to improve. And with the champ, I think her skill set's there. I think last time when we broke down the fight, when we were talking about how Rose is really good, being able to get in close and pose her will. She's big, she's strong, being able to drag that fight to the ground and get in some ground strikes. Now, Jedrzejczyk was very, very comfortable and capable of dealing with that type of pressure. We've seen her use a bunch of different techniques to really bounce back up, negate your ability to ground and pound, and really get up to her feet really quickly. She kind of uses your leg, leverages herself up, goes down low so that you can't go for her neck, set up a guillotine, and kind of uses that the same way like most people would use their hooks to be able to get in. And that way she doesn't have to get as close. She can really prop up really fast. And as soon as she's back on her feet, she's really good. We use her forearms to frame and throw strikes. So she's well equipped to fight a fighter like Rose Namajunas. My thing is that last fight, it wasn't a Namajunas capitalizing on a Jedrzejczyk mistake or something like that, or overwhelming her with like this new game plan or something different, and Joanna could be like, okay, I saw that, now I'm going to change. It was more of she just got a read on her, and because she did the same thing twice. Remember, she knocked her down, and Jedrzejczyk actually got back up, and she was able to knock her back down using the same combination. She saw it, and maybe it's really hard to make an adjustment right then and there. You just got knocked. Plus, we don't know how hurt Joanna was after that initial knockdown. She could have been really out of it, so maybe she was just kind of like in like fight or flight mode, just basic defense, shelling up instinctively. So who knows?
And she didn't have the advantage of being able to like get to the corner and hear anybody tell her what to look for or anything. I mean, it was bang, bang, bang.
And it's possible they look at the tape and they could make an educated guess as to what she's doing that is giving away her position or whatever, right? And they can make some adjustments there. So there's a lot of reasons to like Joanna too. But I guess I'm just going to go with the champion because she was able to get the read, and until I see that very first round and I'm like, nah, never mind. You want to make the adjustment. Let's go. I got to give the slight advantage to Rose. And I do think in this one, if Rose is able to kind of attack her and snatch her back, I wouldn't be surprised if she was able to submit her, because that's her preferred method of finishing fights. So,
don't we agree this probably should be the last fight?
Yes, guys, it should be.
Amen.
All right, and then the last fight. What do we have to say about this? I'll start off like this. Who here thinks Raging Now is going to win? I'll let you start.
Who's you?
I think our answer is the same, right? So does it matter?
Raging Now, bro. Duh. Like, dude's gonna come out and like shock the world.
Oh, okay. Going for the hard pick.
All right, go ahead, Dave. Go ahead, Dave. Loving it. Let's go. All right.
No, okay.
Give me a blueprint to rule the octagon. What does he have to do?
So basically, Al Iaquinta's only path to his only path to win, his only blueprint to rule the octagon, is to just hit Khabib with a clean right hand within the first 5 seconds and put him on his back and just like knock him out with one punch. That's his only shot. Other than that, yeah, Khabib's going to maul him like Khabib's mauled everyone.
My question to you is, do you think Al has a power advantage over Michael Johnson, who hit him really clean, like a 1-2 clean?
Actually, I would say that Al has a power advantage over Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson has the speed advantage, though. So
okay.
I feel like in a way it kind of negates itself.
Yeah.
So no, like honestly, no, I don't think Al has a shot.
Also, I think being a real estate agent, that's got to give you some power. All that
It's got
paperwork,
street cred.
all that paperwork, and
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
I think being a real estate agent, it means he knows how to read people, and he probably can like read Khabib's face and know exactly what Khabib's going to do. But then that being said, we all know what Khabib's going to do. He's going to like rush forward, punch Al a bunch, and then back him up against the cage and drop him on his back, and then just ground and pound for 30 seconds or a minute or 2 minutes or however long it takes to have the ref step in. So
and you know, we were talking about this. You and I talked about this. We're both big fans of Khabib, and it's very interesting how methodical the way he fights is. It's kind of like almost akin to a prime GSP, where it's like I'm gonna do this same thing, but nobody can stop it. And he really he moves the same way. He's gonna kind of go left back to right with that 1-2 pull. 1-2. It's always going to be about the same, and his entries and those takedowns will always be about the same. He really is confident. It's kind of like go ahead, like stop me. I've done this to bears as a kid. I'm not, and he's unafraid, and his striking is. I think the thing is, it would be one thing if we were talking about a guy whose striking was sucked. And it's like, all right, he's a really good wrestler, but like maybe you could have some success striking. But I actually think Khabib is quite underrated. He's underrated in terms of his striking abilities. He mixes things up well. He definitely stays within his wheelhouse. I would, like, if we were going to break this down with Holloway, I wouldn't have said he had the striking advantage over Holloway, especially with Holloway's diversity of strikes. But I definitely could see many scenarios where he might have the advantage, or maybe not the advantage, but I could see him winning exchanges even against a talented striker like Holloway. That's how good his striking can be at times. And then I think the reason why he is so good is because he commits to his strikes. You don't often see him pull. You don't often see him you don't see him do something different. He'll commit to the strikes. He won't overcommit. He won't overextend himself. But it's always going to be as much maximum power without overcommitment. And he'll always go through. He won't move or do something different because he anticipates something from you. He's unafraid of pain, and because he is so supremely confident that, like, if you rush in and you try to take him down, or if you give an opening, he just knows he's going to own you. If this goes to where this is like the fight can either be standing or on the ground, and like I can beat everybody on this half of the fight, so I can be confident in everything I do on the other part of the fight. Geez, we were talking like go raging out, just throw a monkey wrench in the UFC's plans. But it was a tough fight for everyone that the UFC tried to line up for Khabib, and I don't really see a scenario where raging out wins, except for the one that David mentioned, and I don't think it necessarily has to go in the first 5 seconds. Maybe it could be one of those things where Al could survive a bit and. Maybe Khabib gets a little cocky. Al catches him. It's gonna have to be a little bit of dumb luck and just a real good shot on Al's part. And clearly, Al's a very talented martial artist in his own right. He does have some of the tools necessary to maybe put up a challenge to Khabib if he had a full camp training for a guy like Khabib and a bunch of different things that we won't necessarily go into now, but. Surely a tough fight for the guy, and man, Khabib has just looked so dominant. That last fight against Edson Barboza it looks like something out of a movie. He's holding him against the cage and like hitting him, and he's like, "I'm so sorry, I must do this. Dana, give me my belt. I'm so sorry." It's like just punching a guy in the face, and you're like, "Wow, you're kind of scary." Anything else you guys want to add?
I think my favorite part about this whole thing. Is the fact that at the media day, the UFC forgot to make a nameplate for Al Iaquinta. So he wrote his own. And now the guy that had to write his own nameplate is the headliner of the card.
It's
just perfect. It's so great.
And if he wins, like, it will have been like a movie script. Like, you get any better than that? A guy that's literally forgotten by the organization.
If Al Iaquinta wins, I mean, that has to be the greatest upset in UFC history, right? I mean, like that beats Sarah beating GSP, right? I mean, that beats Dillashaw over Barao. That beats everything, right?
Is that bigger than Holm Rousey?
Yes.
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
You think it would be?
I think so. Well, especially it's 24 hours ahead of time. Like, it's just like everything about it. I think just
Holm had an entire camp, and I think there were reasons to think Holm would have some success, even if most people picked against her.
Right.
And like, look, we're struggling to come up with anything besides fluke knockout for Rage now.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
You watch, he goes out tomorrow, puts together like crazy combinations, holds Khabib at bay, goes for his legs, like weakens him up, like really puts together an intelligent game plan. And we're like, dang, real estate agents got skills. But no, I think it would have to. And I also think, like, if you want to compare it to Sarah GSP, which is still one of the craziest upsets ever, I think context would really elevate this, because in that fight it was George St. Pierre, unfocused, not really trying, didn't take Matt Serra seriously, kind of showed up having half-assed the camp, didn't show up to half the camp, went in there, just thought he could own him, and then he got caught by Matt Serra that trained his ass off to beat George St. Pierre. Raging now 24 hours before the fight, Khabib full fight camp. Like, I don't think that it's comparable. And look, if you just want to look at it from a game plan perspective, is there anything Al can do that Ferguson can't? Like, is there anything Al can throw in there that Ferguson can't do? No. So so Khabib was prepared to fight Tony. There's nothing Al could do to surprise him. So, yeah. But, I think we're all in agreement. Go Raging Al.
Oh, yeah. The crowd is going to be super pumped because it's local boy, right?
It's Brooklyn. Yeah, he's a Jersey boy. Or, not Jersey. Oh, yeah, Jersey boy. Yeah. A Jersey boy fighting in Brooklyn. Oh, gosh. Yeah. Hometown crowd.
Show out.
The best thing, if this was like a fantasy booking, you have Khabib say, all right, whatever, I'll give this guy a round. I'm going to, everyone will cheer for him, whatever. I'll let him try his ass off in round 1. I'll flatten him in round 2, whatever, send everyone home. But, like, give everyone 5 minutes of being like, that's my guy. I could be him one day. This is the best thing ever. 24 hours, let's go. Like, just let the building have their excitement, right? And then, like, totally just drain the life out of him in the second round. But, Khabib has no reason to go, attack, right? Like, he is so set up for this fight that they could have put anyone else in, and unless it was Conor, like, there's really not a lot of chance that anyone else had a chance, right? So just let Al have 5 minutes of fame and then send him home.
Could it be akin to the UFC 200 Cormier versus Anderson Silva, where Cormier clearly could have finished Silva at any point, but just kind of let him survive?
Yeah. Actually, I think the best case for Al is a Rocky 1 scenario where he just doesn't get finished, and it's a competitive 5 rounds. Which is not going to happen.
If he doesn't get finished,
don't get finished.
Everyone has to consider that a huge win. That's like the only time you lose and you move up in the rankings.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing, like, he does have some decent striking ability. Again, we have to project that Khabib has to make some mistakes, and the mistakes come from arrogance, cockiness, just knowing that he has this fight. And maybe with what Tyler says, like, Khabib's just kind of like, screw it, let's give him a show and then, like, stomp him, and kind of is a little cocky, you might see a Bisping Luke Rockhold scenario play out, where Luke seemed to be toying around with him. Remember, he kind of went 1-2, but, like, didn't commit to it, and just kind of, like, gave, like, Bisping a look like, come on, dude, are you going to try to And then I think like the very next exchange, Bisping caught him with that hook, and I mean we know what happened after that. So maybe it's something like that. Yeah, but again, we're talking about fluke scenarios where one guy has to be making clear mistakes and the other guy has to be capitalizing it in the most efficient and powerful way possible. So deck is stacked, but we are with you, Ragey. Now we are with you. All right, any final thoughts, Tyler? I'm gonna start with you.
Yeah, I got a question for you.
Okay.
So down in New Orleans,
yeah,
WrestleMania weekend, biggest event of the year for the WWE.
Okay.
Who's headlining the show? One Brock Lesnar.
Nice.
And the rumors circling, this is his final fight on his current WWE contract. Or final, I guess it's not a fight, final event, right? Yeah. Talk is Dana's close to signing him. He would come back to the UFC. Take away all the USADA crap and everything else that's going to come up with this because of his failure from the last fight. Who do you want to see Brock fight next in the UFC?
John Jones.
Unsanctioned fight.
Unsanctioned. Both get to juice up as much as they want. Like steroids up the wazoo. Unsanctioned steroids up the wazoo. And then you'll see all those purist bullshit like fans on Twitter like, I can't believe these guys are cheating. We'll see. We'll see. Like, I'm like, dude, you guys, these guys could just all come out tomorrow and admit what we all sort of know is that like basically all of them take steroids, and you guys will still pay to watch them fight because it's awesome. If we had a roid out John Jones against Brock Lesnar, for sure I'm tuning in to watch that. I want them sitting on the stool on the side getting injected, like getting injections on the side, like one injection for like painkillers, the other injection like. Yeah, full on. Like, I want it to be like Bane. I want Brock Lesnar to go out there with a pack with like stuff like being pumped straight into his neck.
All right, you sold me. I'm in on that fight.
It's either that or this is all bullshit. He's not coming back to the UFC. Fedor is going to pull. I've been referencing the Spurs a lot tonight, David. Another one. He's gonna pull in this Grand Prix fight a DNP old age. And then like it's gonna flash across the screen. New challenger, Brock Lesnar comes out.
Oh, that would be a huge coup at Bellator.
And then Chael Sonnen's like, wait, seriously? What the hell?
Sorry, Chael.
I thought I was gonna fight an old man.
Rampage wants that fight now. I want to fight a fighter.
Which is also fair. And you know what, Chael? Screw it. Roid him up too. Roid it up Chael Sonnen. Everyone gets roids. Guys, I have an idea. How about we open a promotion? Like roids only. Like only fighters that test positive for steroids can fight. Like we have a reverse USADA. You get tested. It's like, dude, get the hell out of here, clean fighter. It's like, oh, dude, this guy's like juiced up the wazoo. All right, you're on.
If your eyebrows aren't this far from your head, go away.
And then like BJ Penn shows up, and we're like,
natty bullshit.
BJ Penn, you're like, wait, seriously? You're on roids and you look like that? Come on, dude.
You're doing
I'd be
wrong.
Sean Shirk immediately.
Sean Shirk, the shark. Yeah, that dude was on roids. Come on.
Oh, he was juiced.
That dude
as
was
all
so
hell.
much juice. What's that other guy? Tubinov? Or what's that guy's name? You know what I'm talking about? It's like the lightweight dude that had like traps. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
He had like traps up to his ears.
He looked like
a lot
Mendez.
like Lesnar.
He looked like Mendez, but like he was like a lightweight Mendez that like walked at like 180 or something like that. Just a freak. Yeah. Lesnar definitely has the same thing going. Yeah, I feel like Lesnar without like the juice is just like you're robbing him of his full potential. Give him the juice. Give him the juice. Give the people what they want. Give Conor all like all the steroids, and you know what? We'll have Conor. Conor.
Do you want to see Conor on road rage?
Dude, he's on something close to it. He's on something close to it. I'm surprised. So you read that he was 155. I'm really surprised that he's 155. I did see some training videos. He does look like he's in pretty good shape. By all
accounts, he's like in camp right now by his own posts.
man, it was just like the worst nightmare. And the thing that kind of gave me hope was like during that whole Mayweather thing, the entire time he was like, I still want to fight UFC. Like, I got something to prove. I have a legacy. And we were all like, we don't really believe it. Like, we kind of think that you're going to make your 180 mil and then just go be a douchebag, because like that's what happens when you make a ton of money and then you don't have to go back to a grinding lifestyle, giving up like drinking and drugs and hanging out with your bros, and like you get to go do whatever you want, and your kids set, your grandkids are set, your great grandkids are set. Like, what do you have to fight for anymore? And we're just like, man, we wonder if that hunger is still going to be there, especially since it didn't look like there were any real names that can kind of draw. I think Khabib is starting to build into that kind of name. One would hope that could be a fight that they could make down in the future, and it could be one of those things where everything just sort of like comes together, works out. You can spin this. Come see the crazy guy. Come see the crazy guy that throws dollies at buses. Come see him fight. People love. We talked about it earlier. People love watching crazy. They pay a lot of money for crazy and just ostentatiousness. I mean, that's why the Kardashians are as famous as they are. So. All right, that about wraps up UFC 223. I'm really proud of this. This actually went on for a while. I didn't know we would have much to talk about considering how stripped the card was. But just like the UFC 223 was dominated by Conor, so was our discussion also dominated by one Conor McGregor. I want to thank you guys for coming on and doing this. And we'll start having more regular content. We kind of took a bit of a hiatus. All of us kind of had some personal things in our lives, and we're going to get back into the thick of things. As always, David always hooks you up with the best DraftKings Pick'ems advice. He's probably going to have that up probably by the time I post this. So if you're listening to this, go check out BroestBros.com. It will be there. Follow his advice, and you'll win a lot of money, or at least, I don't know how much you did on the last one. I don't want to be like, he was so great on the last one.
So the last one was the St. Patrick's Day card. I did not do so hot on that one. That was also a card that I did not watch either. That was the Verdum versus Volkanov card. But
guess who else didn't watch that card? Anyone.
I will, yeah. But the card before that, I made a hefty chunk of change, and you can too if you follow my advice. So yes, I will. Obviously, I've had to make some changes to my lineups for this card. Yeah. But yes, that should be up momentarily.
That's how we're selling this anyways, right? Like we're not telling you go and do one card. We're telling you that over a period of time, if you make bets following David's advice, you will make money. That's a guarantee. You might not make it on this card, but you follow his advice over a period of time. You could go onto our site right now. You can look through the history. You look at every single card that we've ever picked, and you have followed his advice. You will have been making money. So, do the smart thing. Go do the smart thing. Go on to BroestBros.com, look up David's article, and get to betting. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and put down my life savings on Raging Al. I'm about to be rich, bitch. Or
retired.
Or sorry, honey. My bad. My bad. I must have been taking some of that Conor rage juice. Got ahead of myself. I should have waited till I made 180 million before I made bad decisions. Tyler, anything you want to add?
I'm currently researching offshore oil rigs and small islands that we can begin our new fight promotion on.
Excellent.
Right. Steroid Island.
They will make movies about us in the future.
All right, that's great. Guys, you'll want to tune in this Saturday, UFC 223. Even though it has been robbed of many fights, we still have plenty of good fights left. The one we're probably all most excited about, the rematch between Doug Rose versus Joanna, former champion. So tune in, see that one. And until next time, we are the Broest Bros,